Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the newly released NewAge Destron leader Darius, also known of course as the legend scaled MP Galvatron. Now if you are looking to add Darius to your collection, he is available and in stock right now over at Shozy Store, and for that I shall include a link down in the description box below. Now taking a look at Galvatron himself, I have got to say right at the beginning of this review that this may just be my favourite legend scaled figure that I have picked up from NewAge or Magic Square. Honestly, the figure is brilliant and I am so glad to add him to my collection. Upon seeing some of the initial promotional images of this figure, I knew he was going to be stunning, and getting the character in hand, not only does he look fantastic and come with a great array of accessories, but the articulation, the paintwork, the inclusion of diecast as well as the materials used really does make this figure incredibly impressive. Now taking a look here at the accessories, you can see that Darius or Galvatron does actually come with quite a few. So we get two pairs of interchangeable hands, one pair which is slightly more exaggerated for some of the more dynamic poses. Of course we do get a pair of pointing fingers which really help to get some expressive poses out of Galvatron. We also do get a pair of fisted hands which are pre-installed fresh out of the packaging. We do get two interchangeable faceplates. Now these would be great if I could actually remove Galvatron's faceplate, as on my copy it does appear to be stuck on, and I really do not want to force and potentially break or damage the paint to the face that is already pre-installed. But nevertheless you can see here that we do get a very menacing looking facial expression here for Galvatron, and then the second one is a little more of an angry face sculpt, probably when Hot Rod does arise into Rodimus Prime, which is fantastic. I just cannot wait to get the upcoming HasLab Unicron to display this Galvatron figure next to him. We also do get a blaster here, and this has been completely cast in a very nice gunmetal grey. You can see there is some nice detailing on there, and of course it does have the 3mm peg, so will port into the fisted hands, which is fantastic. We do also get the Matrix of Leadership on a die-cast chain, and the detailing on the Matrix definitely did surprise me upon opening this out of the packaging. We do get a blue crystal gem in the centre with a bronze paint application highlighting some of the sharper details of the sculpt, and then of course the side sections have been picked out in silver, and the die-cast chain is a really nice touch. You can of course hang this around Galvatron's neck in order to recreate his look from the '86 movie, but Galvatron's most iconic accessory has got to be the orange fusion cannon, and the detail and the sculpt work on this too has come out really nicely. From what I can tell, the main barrel has been completely painted in a very nice metallic orange, which really does complement the very dominant purple design that Galvatron does possess. We also do have a piece of grey plastic here at the top, which too has got some nice detailing with a slot here. Now you may be able to tell that some of the paint from Galvatron's peg has unfortunately rubbed off, so in the future if you do wish to display Galvatron without the arm cannon, you may see some scratches on this peg, but as far as installation is concerned, it merely does just port in there very nice and securely. So overall for accessories, I am thoroughly impressed with what we actually get here with Darius. And so turning to the main event himself, here we have Galvatron, and much like I mentioned in the opening segment of this review, I am in love with this figure. Ever since I picked him up, I have not been able to put him down. He's just so articulated and looks fantastic from pretty much every angle. I believe NewAge have perfectly captured Galvatron's appearance from not only the '86 movie, but of course season 3 of G1, and in my opinion, at least from some of the previous Galvatron figures that I have picked up, this has got to be the best, and considering the scale, it really is remarkable at what they were able to accomplish. Taking a look here at the detail, you can see that as far as the helmet design is concerned, it looks impeccable. We have got the 3 spikes here at the top of the helmet with some nice detailing there at the top. You can see that this here is the pre-installed faceplate, which is a little more of a neutral expression, and I would love to swap them out. However, as mentioned, due to this faceplate being rather thin, I definitely think that I could either damage the paintwork or potentially crack the faceplate, so definitely be cautious when swapping them out. You can see we've got some nice silver highlights here around the neck. The paintwork there for the face has come out so nicely, and from what I can tell, the figure has actually been painted with a metallic purple coat. Initially, I did just believe it to be a glossy purple plastic. However, when actually looking at some of the internals whilst transforming the figure, the purple is a little blander than what we have here for the exterior. You can also see some nice detailings here on the tops of the shoulders, such as this gunmetal grey, and there are also some red highlights here at the top in order to once again pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt. We also do have this back assembly, which is of course very faithful to how he appeared in the show, and as far as the proportions are concerned, I don't believe that it looks too obtrusive at all, and you can also see some nice sculpt work. As we take a look here towards Galvatron's arms, you can see some nice detailing there as far as the panel lining is concerned. We of course have the treads of the space cannon pegged here on the back, much like we saw in the show, and I really just love how this character looks. Here is an example of the unpainted purple plastic, so you can see here for the hands, these are not painted, so do look slightly different when in comparison to the rest of of the body, but honestly, I'm just in love with the overall colour scheme. You can see how the entire torso, as well as the shoulders and some other parts of the figure, do have a metallic appearance, and it really does amplify the overall look of this character. We of course do have some nice detail as well as paintwork here for the mid-torso, and then taking a look here at the hip armour, once again these two have been painted and sculpted impeccably well. I do like how the thighs have got a metallic coating, although it would have been nice to see some of the joints picked out in that same silver, although as these here are some of the main joints, I'm pretty certain they decided against painting them, as perhaps it was an area where paint chipping could occur, so it was therefore probably the best option to leave these joints just grey plastic. As we take a look here towards the knee pads, you can see how these are indeed a separate piece that sits over the top of the main thigh, and I love how this looks, very proportionately accurate and adds some definition and depth to the sculpt. We of course have got a nice gunmetal used here for the knee pads, as well as here for some of the shin armour, with some very precisely painted in red sections here for the interior. For a figure which is roughly 4.5 inches in terms of scale, I love how there is next to no paint bleeding at all. Taking a look here down to the lower section, you can once again see the armour looks incredibly elegant, of course to match his design from the show, and the foot paint and detailing too has come out impeccably well. Taking a look here at a back perspective of Galvatron, this too does clean up very nicely, and as mentioned, with every release by NewAge, I appear to become more and more blown away with the quality of their products. However, despite the paint and detailing being mind-blowing already, just wait until you see how much articulation this small guy does have packed into him. So here for the head, we have a ball joint which can allow him to look up and down, and of course side to side we can get a full 360 range of motion out of that as well. The arms here are on ball joints, so can rotate the full 360 as well as can hinge out to the sides. We also do get a rotation here at the bicep on a mushroom peg, and due to transformation we also do get a double joint here for the elbow. However, if you do utilize that double range of motion, the tread here will become detached from the back. We do get a full rotation here at the wrist, as well as a full 360 rotation here at the waist. It would have been fantastic if they could have engineered an ab crunch onto this figure, although judging from how he transforms, I'm pretty certain that could have either compromised it or could have just been impossible to do at all. We also do have some hinge joints here for the hip armor, so you can hinge this out of the way in order to accommodate a side kick. He can of course kick forwards that far as well as back to that far. We do get a rotation due to the ball joint, as well as a rotation here at the thigh which can rotate the full 360. Taking a look here at the knees here are actually really interesting, as there is so much going on. So we do get a hinge joint here which can bend to 90, although there is also a secondary hinge joint which can essentially get Galvatron kicking himself up the backside. Now as you can see, the knee pad will stay fixed at a rather odd angle, and although this section here does look slightly unusual, this here is on its own independent hinge joint, so if you wish you could compress this or you could angle it out in order to make the post look slightly more natural from a front perspective. Taking a look here at the foot, this here is on a ball joint, so can pivot forwards and backwards, as well as of course rock side to side, and can also rotate the full 360. However, due to the nature of the design, it is slightly hindered. And then finally, we do indeed get a toe bend there. So as far as articulation is concerned, to be quite honest with you, I am blown away with this figure, and despite us being at the beginning of 2021, I'm almost certain that this NewAge Galvatron will indeed make his way onto my top 10 2021 purchases. Here for a legend scale MP size comparison, we have our new NewAge Galvatron compared to what was my favourite legend scaled MP, the Magic Square Megatron. Now of course both of these figures are designed by two different companies, so the scaling is slightly off, although for the most part, if you were collecting both Magic Square and NewAge and you preferred the Magic Square Megatron and of course loved the NewAge Galvatron, I think this scale here could work quite nicely. You can see that as far as head to head is concerned, Galvatron and Megatron are pretty much the same height, with Megatron being a smidge taller here at the top of the helmet. For a more contemporary retail size comparison, here we have NewAge Galvatron compared next to the Earthrise Deluxe Class Cliff Jumper, and you can see that even at the Legends MP scale, he is still bigger than the Deluxe Class Cliff Jumper, and when you take into account how much more engineering this figure has packed into him when compared to this Deluxe Class, it truly is mind-blowing. Now of course, there is a significant price difference. This Galvatron figure is roughly twice the price here of this Deluxe Class, although at least for me, is definitely worth it. Now, turning to Galvatron's transformation, surprisingly, he is actually a little more involved than I initially suspected. Although, with all that being said, I have found myself transforming Galvatron from robot mode to space cannon mode, and vice versa multiple times, as the transformation is definitely one that becomes more enjoyable the more times you practice it. So, to begin with, you're going to want to take the fusion cannon here and just attach it from the side of his arm. We can then take this grey section and separate this, as this here does become two separate elements when we do get him into his alternate mode. You'll then want to ensure that the hip armor here is indeed collapsed, as we're going to rotate this here so that the front is facing the back. Once that's complete, I would recommend hinging the arms up like this. Take the hip armor and extend this just like so. You'll then want to turn your attention here to the front, take this panel, fold this here out to the side, and of course repeat the same process here on the opposite side. Take the foot, rotate this here so that the front is now facing the back, and of course repeat the exact same process, so rotate that there. Once that's complete, you're going to want to take this here, hinge this forward so that we no longer have the knee pad armor actually overlapping on this piece, which will then allow you to separate these two components, so just fully extend that all the way out. Of course, come here to this side and repeat the exact same process, so just extend this joint like so. Once that's done, you can see here that we do have a hinge joint. This entire section is going to come forwards, and once that's done, you're going to want to ensure that the knee pad is straight so that we can take this second joint and arch this here all the way backwards. Essentially, you're going to want to have something which looks along the lines of this, as this tab is going to slide down that groove, and then this tab here is going to peg into that slot. So once that there is complete, you have everything pretty much aligned. Of course, come here to this side and repeat the same process. So disengage this section, pull this entire region here forwards, just like this. Come here to this side and ensure that that tab and slot will align up appropriately. Once again, the knee pad does have to sit dead straight, and once that's complete, you can see a tab and port that you'll just want to snap there nice and securely. Once that's complete, we can then take these two pieces and just push these here over the top. You'll then want to turn your attention here to this spike, take this and just open this up, which will then disengage this piece so that we can hinge this all the way out, just to allow for some extra clearance. Turn your attention here to the front of Galvatron, take the shoulder joint and lift this up, as it will actually detach the armpit from the main torso. Repeat the same process here on the opposite side. That will then allow you to take Galvatron's torso and hinge this entire section here forwards. You'll then want to lift this piece out of the way, take this section and fully extend that. We'll then take the arms, and these are going to rotate upwards like so, which will then allow you to rotate this entire assembly so that Galvatron's head is now concealed within the middle of the torso. Once that's done, we'll lift this section up, and you can see how the crest is designed to rest in this slot, although you will not want to push it all the way in just yet, as we need to allow for clearance to push this forwards, as this entire region here will rotate at the main waist all the way around. So you'll just want to make sure that you are not rubbing anything here, such as the chest plate on this back assembly. And once that's complete, we can then arch this section forward, and of course repeat the same process here on the opposite side. Ensure that the head is aligned up with that slot and just arch that there. And now comes one of the more finicky aspects of the conversion. You're going to want to fold out these tiny little prongs here on either side. So just fold that section out, and of course repeat the same process here on the opposite side. So just fold that out like so. We can then take the arms here, and you can see slots that will indeed peg into these tabs. So bring this here all the way down until that does clip into place, and of course repeat the same process here on the opposite side. We can then take these pieces and extend this here out. Of course, come here to this side and repeat the same process, and you can see how we are now creating the front section of the space cannon. Once that's complete, we can extend these joints, align this up appropriately, and then this slot will peg here into this tab. So bring this all the way down until that does clip into place, and of course repeat the same process, and then this tab here will peg into this square slot. So just bring this over and snap that there just like so. Once that's complete, we can then begin to manipulate these hinge joints so that they can fill out the sides of the space cannon. Just clip that in there. And then for some of the final touches, you're going to want to bring the ball joints down, take the double joint here for the elbow, arch this here all the way around, fold out this panel, rotate this around like so, and of course repeat the same process. So just take the elbow joint and fold that all the way utilizing the double joint, fold out this panel, rotate this section here around, and essentially just angle them in order to match how Galvatron appeared in the movie, so we can have something a little more exaggerated, just like so. Prop this here and bring back in our fusion cannon that we saw in robot mode. This is going to peg here onto the front, and then the grey section that we'd also detached is going to peg into this slot here. So just snap that there, and with all that being said, here we have Galvatron fully transformed up into his very awesome, rather accurate looking Space Cannon alt mode. And so taking a look here at Galvatron in his Space Cannon alt mode, much like my thoughts when we had him in robot mode, I am thoroughly impressed with what NewAge were able to accomplish, especially considering this figure's scale. In my opinion, this does a great job in resembling the rather odd-looking space cannon tank mode that Galvatron obtained in the 86 movie and of course in Season 3 of G1. I really love the engineering on this figure. You saw as I was demonstrating the transformation that everything has a place to tap into, and I just find the engineering mind-blowing. All of the panels that come out of the internal torso, the way there are multiple rotations to do with the legs and of course the upper body, I just think this figure here in all has turned out great. Bringing Galvatron in here for a closer look, you can see that as far as the detailing is concerned, I believe this here too has come out really well, especially for this main cylindrical section. You can see that considering this is formed out of many collapsed panels that store within Galvatron's torso, I believe they've done a fantastic job. We of course do have a metallic purple highlight here around the centre where the main fusion cannon does attach onto. Of course this has been completely painted out of the metallic orange, much like I mentioned in the robot mode segment, although I think it looks fantastic and really does complement the rather dominant purple colour scheme exceptionally well. We of course do now have the treads here, which have also got some nice gunmetal detailing, of course just to make them appear slightly more authentic. And then taking a look here at a side perspective, whilst not 100% perfect of course, there are some hollow gaps. I believe that they've done a really good job, and considering how awesome that robot mode looks, I find this here to be a more than suitable enough compromise. Taking a look here at the back of Galvatron, if you are not a fan of how the feet do store, of course you can rotate them around or utilise the toe joint and actually compress these, so really and truly you could mess around with this to your own personal desire. I do like the placement here of the red kneecaps. To me it gives me the impression that these are perhaps thrusters that would fire Galvatron forwards to any of his opponents. If I had any critiques with Galvatron within this mode, it's that this section here does have a tendency to fall off the peg rather easily. You can see how that port is slightly recessed within this piece, which means that the peg itself doesn't have a great hold of this, and this can become easily detached. Although if you do get it wedged on there and of course display this on a shelf, it won't go anywhere. It's just when handling it, this is definitely an area of which I would be cautious of. I do also like how you can utilise the ball joints in order to have a slightly more exaggerated range of motion here for the front two treads, and then of course it is also held up by this third support structure, so when on the ground Galvatron is incredibly stable. We can of course bring in the matrix of leadership and create his look when he did transform in the 86 movie, so you can simply just prop that there over the top, and I find this here to be a great look. And so to conclude this review, if you haven't already guessed, I am thoroughly impressed by the latest entry by NewAge. I truly do believe that they have created a work of art here with Darius, of course also known as Galvatron. The robot mode for me is pretty much spot on and has everything and even more that I would want from a Galvatron figure. Something which I believe continues to blow me away with these figures is not only how well detailed, painted and articulated they are, not to mention the incredible engineering, but it is also how much they are able to accomplish at this tiny scale. These figures here are smaller than the standard deluxe class size, and it truly is remarkable in my personal opinion. The figure in robot mode looks pretty much spot on to how he appeared in the 86 movie. He also has got a ton of articulation, which is fantastic and allows for so many different display options. Of course we get included the interchangeable hands as well as the interchangeable faceplates, which whilst I personally am unable to use due to my faceplate being incredibly secure, and I do actually believe that I could cause some damage to the face, I do like their inclusion, but would perhaps like to see the tolerances adjusted to those faceplates just slightly so that it could make their removal a little easier. I also find the transformation to be mind-blowing. The figure is so small yet manages to have so much packed into him, and it creates for a really fun, fascinating and enjoyable experience. As we take a look at him in his space cannon mode, whilst not perfect and of course is the weakest out of the two modes, I believe that it does a great job in resembling what we saw from the movie and of course season 3 of G1. The figure overall is just great. The materials are great, the paint is great, the accessories are great, and I could not recommend this figure any more than I already have. So with all that being said, if you are looking to add Galvatron to your collection, he is available and in stock right now over at Showzi's store, and for that of course I shall include a link down in the description box below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this figure and whether or not you agree with my opinion. I would also love to know what you thought of the review, and I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.